The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows of Platinum Grove, one of Los Angeles' newest upscale restaurants. Sarah Martinez adjusted her crisp black apron and name tag, her hands slightly trembling as she prepared for her third day on the job. At 24, this wasn't her first waitressing position, but it was certainly the most prestigious. The restaurant's elegant interior, with its modern art pieces and crystal chandeliers, made her previous workplace at the local diner seem like a distant memory. Manager Rick Thompson had spent the morning briefing the staff about their new late-night payment policy, which required customers arriving after midnight to pay upfront. The rule had been implemented after several groups had dined and dashed in the past week, leaving hundreds of dollars in unpaid bills. Remember, Rick had emphasized, pointing at each staff member, no exceptions. I don't care if they're wearing designer suits or look like they own half of Beverly Hills. The policy applies to everyone. Sarah took these words to heart. Her single mother had raised her with a strong work ethic, teaching her that rules were rules, and fairness meant treating everyone the same way. Besides, she couldn't afford to lose this job, not with rent due and her younger sister's college textbooks to help pay for. As the evening shift began, Sarah moved efficiently between tables, memorizing orders and delivering plates with growing confidence. Her fellow waitress, Maria, had been working at Platinum Grove since its opening 6 months ago and took Sarah under her wing, showing her the subtle nuances of serving a more upscale clientele. The key is to be attentive, but not hovering, Maria explained as they folded napkins together. And remember, some of our regulars are pretty famous, but we treat them just like anyone else. The dinner rush came and went, leaving Sarah exhausted but proud of handling the bustling crowd without any major mishaps. As the clock approached midnight, the restaurant's atmosphere shifted. The families and early diners had been replaced by a more eclectic crowd, music industry executives, late-night partygoers, and the occasional celebrity. Sarah was wiping down a recently vacated table when she heard the distinct rumble of several expensive cars pulling up outside. Through the tinted windows, she could make out a small group of people emerging from sleek vehicles, their silhouettes backlit by the street lamps. The restaurant's front door opened, letting in the warm California night air along with a group of casually dressed individuals. The leader of the group, a tall, lean man wearing designer sweats and gold chains, moved with an air of familiar confidence. His companions, equally relaxed in their attire, followed behind him. Sarah glanced at her watch, 12:07 a.m. The late-night payment policy had just gone into effect. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed her order pad and approached the group as they settled into one of the prime corner booths. "Good evening and welcome to Platinum Grove," she said, her voice professional and steady. "Before I take your order, I need to inform you about our new policy. For all customers arriving after midnight, we require payment upfront." A few members of the entourage exchanged amused glances. The man in the center of the group looked at Sarah with mild interest, his expression unreadable behind designer sunglasses, which Sarah thought odd for this time of night. "That's a new one of the companions said, chuckling. "You serious?" "Yes, sir," Sarah replied firmly, standing her ground. "It's a restaurant policy that applies to all customers after midnight. No exceptions." The main figure raised his eyebrows slightly above his sunglasses, then reached into his pocket. Sarah noticed the other staff members had stopped what they were doing, their attention focused on her interaction with the group. Even Maria was making frantic gestures from behind the bar, but Sarah was too focused on doing her job correctly to notice. "Would you like to hear our specials while I process your payment?" Sarah asked, maintaining her professional demeanor despite the growing tension she sensed in the air. The man slowly removed his sunglasses, revealing an amused expression. He pulled out a sleek wallet, and Sarah caught a glimpse of what looked like platinum credit cards. The restaurant had gone strangely quiet, creating an atmosphere that made Sarah increasingly aware that something unusual was happening, though she couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. Little did Sarah know, her strict adherence to policy was about to become one of the most memorable moments of her career at Platinum Grove, and the starting point of an extraordinary evening that would change the restaurant's culture forever. Just as Sarah began processing the credit card, Maria rushed over, her face flushed with panic. She grabbed Sarah's arm and whispered urgently, "Do you know who that is?" Sarah glanced at the group again, confused by her coworker's behavior. The man was now leaning back comfortably in his seat, a subtle smile playing at the corners of his mouth as he watched the scene unfold. His companions were trying to hide their obvious amusement, some pulling out their phones to record the interaction. "Should I?" Sarah whispered back, her hand frozen mid-transaction. Before Maria could respond, Rick, the manager, came sprinting from his office, nearly slipping on the polished floor in his haste. His usual composed demeanor had vanished, replaced by a look of pure horror as he approached the table. "Mr. Broaddus, sir, I am so incredibly sorry about this misunderstanding," Rick stammered, his face turning red. "Sarah is new here, and she doesn't." The tall man raised his hand, stopping Rick mid-sentence. "Nah, man, let her do her thing. I respect that." His voice was smooth and instantly recognizable. Sarah's eyes widened as realization dawned on her. The distinctive voice, the laid-back demeanor, the entourage. She was trying to charge Snoop Dogg Upfront at his own restaurant. Sarah's stomach dropped to her feet. Her hands began to shake so badly that she nearly dropped the credit card terminal. The stories Maria had told her about the restaurant's famous owner suddenly came flooding back. She had seen his pictures in the break room, but had never expected him to show up dressed so casually. I. Sarah struggled to find words, her mouth suddenly dry. Snoop leaned forward, his expression kind. "Go ahead and run that card, young lady. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do." He turned to his companions. "See, this is what I'm talking about. No special treatment, no matter who walks through that door." The tension in the restaurant began to dissolve as other customers and staff members realized there wasn't going to be a scene. Instead, they were witnessing something unexpected. A celebrity owner supporting an employee who had unknowingly tried to enforce policy on him. Sarah's hands were still trembling as she processed the payment. "Would you like to see our wine list, sir?" she managed to ask, trying to maintain her professionalism despite her embarrassment. "Nah, we good. I already know what I want," Snoop replied with a grin. "But first, tell me how long you've been working here." 3 days, sir," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 days and already holding down the fort like a boss. He nodded approvingly. "That's what I'm talking about. Rick, you seeing this?" Rick, who had been hovering nervously nearby, stepped forward. "Yes, sir. Sarah has been an excellent addition to our team." "Excellent." Snoop laughed. "Man, she's the only one who had the courage to stick to the rules when I walked in. That's more than excellent, that's exactly what we need." The atmosphere in the restaurant had completely transformed. Other customers were smiling, some even applauding quietly. Sarah's coworkers looked at her with a mixture of amazement and respect. One of Snoop's companions spoke up. "You know this story's going viral, right? Waitress makes Snoop pay up front at his own spot. That's gonna blow up." "Let it," Snoop replied, removing his designer jacket. "People need to see what real professionalism looks like. Now, Sarah, let me get the Platinum Grove special with extra sauce, and keep them rolls coming." As Sarah wrote down the order, still in a daze, she couldn't help but notice how the other customers were watching the interaction with interest. Some had their phones out, undoubtedly sharing the story on social media already. Rick patted her on the shoulder as she headed toward the kitchen. "You just became part of Platinum Grove history," he said with a smile, "and I have a feeling Mr. Broaddus is going to remember you." Sarah glanced back at the table, where Snoop was now chatting animatedly with his friends, occasionally looking her way with approval. She realized that what had started as potentially the most embarrassing moment of her career had somehow turned into something entirely different. A moment that would define not just her job, but the entire restaurant's reputation for fairness and professionalism. While Sarah efficiently worked on Snoop's order in the kitchen, the word had spread like wildfire through social media. The restaurant's phone started ringing nonstop with reservation requests, and curious onlookers began gathering outside, hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous owner. In the kitchen, head chef Marcus was personally overseeing the preparation of Snoop's order. "You got some serious guts, girl," he said to Sarah as he artfully plated the Platinum Grove special. "In all my years of cooking, I've never seen anyone handle a situation like that with such grace." Sarah was still processing the events of the evening when Maria rushed into the kitchen, her eyes wide with excitement. "Sarah, you need to see this. The video of you and Snoop is trending everywhere. People are calling you the rule-following queen and praising the restaurant for having such professional staff. As Sarah carried the carefully prepared dishes to Snoop's table, she noticed that the restaurant had become even more crowded. Regular customers were calling their friends, and the bar area was packed with people trying to be part of this unexpected moment. Snoop's reaction to the food was immediate and enthusiastic. "Now this right here," he said, taking a bite, "this is exactly why I bought this place." Marcus still got that magic touch in the kitchen. His companions nodded in agreement, phones still out, documenting every moment. One of them, who introduced himself as the restaurant's marketing director, couldn't contain his excitement. "This is better than any promotional campaign we could have planned. The authenticity is what makes it perfect." As Sarah continued to serve the table, Snoop engaged her in conversation, asking about her background and what brought her to Platinum Grove. She found herself relaxing slightly as she shared stories about her single mother, her sister in college, and her dreams of eventually opening her own small restaurant. "See, that's what I'm talking about," Snoop said, turning to his entourage. "This is the kind of spirit we need in this business. Someone who understands the value of rules and respect, but also has bigger dreams." The night took an unexpected turn when Snoop stood up and called for everyone's attention. The restaurant fell silent as he spoke. "Y'all witnessed something special tonight. When I bought this place, I wanted it to be different from other celebrity-owned spots. I wanted real people, real service, and real respect." He gestured towards Sarah. "This young lady right here? She didn't care about my name or my fame. She cared about doing her job right. That's the Platinum Grove standard right there." The customers erupted in applause, while Sarah felt her face flush with embarrassment and pride. Rick quickly approached with a camera, suggesting they take a picture for the restaurant's wall of fame. "Nah, man," Snoop said, "we doing better than that. Sarah, come here." He motioned for her to join him. "We're going to make this official. From now on, you're not just a waitress, you're our standard bearer for excellence." As they posed for photos, Sarah couldn't help but notice how Snoop's casual demeanor had shifted slightly, revealing the shrewd businessman beneath. He was already discussing ways to implement a new employee training program based on her example. The kitchen staff, led by Marcus, emerged to watch the impromptu ceremony. Even the usually stern-faced chef couldn't hide his smile as Snoop continued to praise Sarah's professionalism. "Tomorrow," Snoop announced, "we're having a staff meeting. Sarah's going to help us revamp our training program. We're going to show the world that Platinum Grove isn't just another celebrity restaurant. It's a place where excellence is the standard, no matter who walks through that door." As the night progressed, Sarah continued her shift, now serving tables with a new confidence. Regular customers treated her with increased respect, some even requesting selfies with the waitress who stood up to Snoop. What had started as a potentially career-ending moment had transformed into an opportunity that would change not only Sarah's life, but the entire culture of Platinum Grove. As she watched Snoop interact with other customers, sharing the story and laughing about it, she realized that sometimes the biggest opportunities come from simply doing the right thing, even when, or especially when, it's uncomfortable. The next morning, Sarah arrived at Platinum Grove 2 hours before her scheduled shift for the special staff meeting Snoop had announced. The restaurant's private dining room was packed with employees from all shifts, creating a buzz of excitement and anticipation. Rick had already set up a projection screen showing various news headlines about the previous night's events. "Waitress enforces policy on restaurant owner Snoop Dogg," read one. "Platinum Grove sets new standard in celebrity restaurant service," declared another. The story had gone viral overnight, with millions of views across different social media platforms. When Snoop arrived, he wasn't alone. With him was a team of business consultants and his personal restaurant advisor. He had transformed from the casual customer of the previous night into a focused business owner, though he maintained his signature laid-back style. "Last night showed us something important," Snoop began, addressing the room. "It showed us that one person's commitment to doing the right thing can change everything. Sarah, come up here for a minute." Sarah nervously made her way to the front of the room. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, and she had arrived early to make sure she looked professional for whatever Snoop had planned. "Tell everyone what was going through your mind when you asked me to pay upfront," Snoop requested, handing her the microphone. Sarah took a deep breath. Honestly, I was just thinking about the rules Rick had explained that morning. It didn't matter to me who the customer was, the policy was the policy. My mom always taught me that respect means treating everyone the same way. Snoop nodded approvingly. That's exactly what we're going to build on. Starting today, Platinum Grove is launching what we're calling the Equal Respect Initiative. Sarah here is going to help develop our new training program. The restaurant advisor stepped forward with a tablet, showing slides of the new program. It would include regular staff training sessions, a revised employee handbook, and a reward system for staff members who demonstrated exceptional professionalism. But that's not all, Snoop continued. Sarah's story gave me an idea. We're going to start a scholarship program for employees who want to pursue their dreams in the restaurant business. Sarah mentioned she wants to open her own place someday. Well, we're going to help make that happen for her and others like her. The room erupted in applause. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes as she realized the impact her simple act of following the rules had created. Rick then unveiled the new addition to the restaurant's decor, a framed photo from the previous night, showing Sarah and Snoop, with the caption, "Excellence knows no exceptions." It would hang in the entrance, serving as a reminder of the restaurant's commitment to fair treatment. But we ain't done yet, Snoop announced. Sarah, you're being promoted to senior service trainer. You'll keep your regular shifts, but you'll also be responsible for training new employees and maintaining our service standards. The other staff members cheered, especially Maria, who had been recording everything on her phone. This is going straight to TikTok, she exclaimed. As the meeting continued, various staff members shared their own stories of dealing with celebrity customers, and Snoop listened intently, occasionally making notes on his phone. The atmosphere in the room was electric with possibility. One more thing, Snoop said as the meeting was wrapping up. Tonight, we're hosting a special event. Every major food critic in LA is coming to experience the Platinum Grove standard. Sarah, you'll be serving my table again, this time on purpose. The staff laughed, and Sarah felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She had gone from being terrified of losing her job to becoming the face of the restaurant's new service standard in less than 24 hours. As everyone began to disperse to prepare for their shifts, Snoop pulled Sarah aside. You know why what you did was so important? He asked. Because it showed that real respect isn't about who someone is or what they own. It's about treating everyone with the same dignity. That's what's going to make this place special. Sarah nodded, understanding that her simple act of following the rules had become something much bigger, symbol of integrity in an industry often criticized for its preferential treatment and double standards. As she watched her colleagues preparing for the evening ahead, she realized that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of consistency. The evening of the special event arrived, and Platinum Grove was transformed. The regular elegant atmosphere had been enhanced with subtle touches. Fresh flowers on every table, new lighting that created an intimate ambience, and a jazz quartet playing softly in the corner. Sarah stood at attention during the pre-service meeting, now wearing a newly designed senior staff uniform that distinguished her from the other servers. Rick was reviewing the evening's requirements, but his usual nervous energy had been replaced with confident excitement. Tonight isn't just about impressing food critics, Rick explained. It's about showing them what makes Platinum Grove different. Sarah, you'll be handling the main section, including Mr. Broaddus's table and the critics. The restaurant's entrance was already crowded with photographers and social media influencers, all eager to capture the aftermath of the viral story. Inside, Chef Marcus was orchestrating his kitchen team with military precision, preparing for what would be their biggest night yet. I've added something special to the menu, Marcus told Sarah during the final preparation. Called it the Standard Bearer. It's a dish inspired by your story. Snoop already approved it, and he wants all the critics to try it. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doors opened. The first to arrive was Jonathan Chen, the notorious food critic known for his scathing reviews of celebrity-owned restaurants. Sarah greeted him with the same professional courtesy she would show any guest, which didn't go unnoticed. So, you're the famous Waitress, Chen remarked, studying her carefully. Tell me, was it all staged for publicity? Sarah met his gaze steadily. No, sir. Would you like to hear about our specials this evening? Her straightforward response seemed to impress him. As she worked her section, Sarah could see Chen making notes between courses, his expression unreadable. Snoop arrived with a different entourage this time, business partners and restaurant industry veterans. He took his usual table, but asked Sarah to treat him exactly as she had the first night. When she presented him with the bill up front after midnight, the entire restaurant burst into appreciative laughter. The real surprise came when food critic Melissa Torres, known for her focus on restaurant culture and staff treatment, requested an impromptu interview with Sarah. Between serving tables, Sarah shared her perspective on respect in the service industry. It's not about who people are, Sarah explained, carefully balancing a tray of appetizers. It's about treating everyone with dignity. That's what Mr. Broadis understood and appreciated. Torres nodded thoughtfully, making quick notes on her tablet. And the new training program you're developing? We're calling it the Standard, Sarah replied. It's about consistency, respect, and excellence, no matter who walks through that door. As the evening progressed, Sarah noticed something remarkable. The other servers had adopted her approach, treating every guest with the same level of professional courtesy. The culture shift was already visible. Near the end of the night, Snoop gathered everyone's attention by gently tapping his glass. The jazz quartet stopped playing, and all eyes turned to him. "Y'all came here tonight expecting a story about a waitress who didn't recognize me," he began. "But that's not the real story. The real story is about setting standards and sticking to them. Sarah didn't just follow a rule, she showed us all what integrity looks like." He motioned for Sarah to join him. "Starting next month, Platinum Grove is expanding. We're opening 3 new locations, and Sarah here will be in charge of training all the staff. We're not just running restaurants, we're changing how the service industry thinks about respect." The announcement was met with enthusiastic applause. Food critic Chen was now smiling, actually smiling, as he made his final notes of the evening. As the night wound down, Sarah found herself taking a moment to absorb everything that had happened. Her mother had called earlier, crying with pride after seeing the news. Her sister had shared the story with her entire college, and job offers had started pouring in from other restaurants. But as she watched the satisfied customers leaving, saw the proud looks on her coworkers' faces, and felt the sense of purpose in her new role, Sarah knew she was exactly where she needed to be. Sometimes, she realized, the smallest choices have the power to create the biggest changes, and respect given freely returns in ways you never expect. 1 week after the special event, Platinum Grove was experiencing unprecedented success. The restaurant's reservation list was booked solid for the next 3 months, and Sarah's story had inspired a movement in the service industry that nobody had expected. The morning started with Sarah leading her first official training session for new staff members. The restaurant's private dining room had been converted into a temporary classroom, with 20 eager trainees hanging on her every word. "The most important thing to remember," Sarah explained, standing confidently at the front of the room, "is that consistency in service isn't just about following rules. It's about understanding why those rules exist and treating everyone with equal respect." As she spoke, the door opened quietly, and Snoop slipped in, taking a seat at the back of the room. He nodded approvingly as he watched Sarah handle questions from the trainees with natural ease and authority. "What if we recognize a celebrity?" one trainee asked. "Should we treat them differently?" Before Sarah could answer, Snoop stood up. "Let me take that one," he said, walking to the front of the room. "Last week, 3 different celebrities came to dine here. Did anyone hear about it in the news?" The trainees shook their heads. "Exactly," Snoop continued. "Because our staff treated them just like any other guest. That's why they keep coming back. They don't want special treatment. They want to be treated like regular people." The training session was interrupted by Rick, who rushed in with exciting news. The reviews from the special event had just been published. Jonathan Chen, the notoriously harsh critic, had given Platinum Grove a rare 5-star rating, specifically mentioning the refreshing approach to service equality. But it was Melissa Torres's review that truly captured what made the restaurant special. She had written a full-page article titled "The Platinum Standard: How One Waitress Changed Restaurant Culture." Sarah's phone had been buzzing nonstop with messages from other restaurant owners and managers, all wanting to know more about the standard training program she was developing. Even culinary schools had started reaching out, interested in incorporating her service philosophy into their curriculum. During the lunch service, a surprise visitor arrived, Sarah's mother. She stood in the doorway, tears in her eyes, holding a framed copy of Torres's article. Snoop personally escorted her to the best table in the house, where Sarah took a brief break to sit with her. "I always taught you to stand up for what's right," her mother said, holding Sarah's hand. "But I never imagined it would lead to all this." As they talked, Snoop's business team was in the office, finalizing plans for the expansion. The new locations would all feature training centers where Sarah would help implement the standard across all the restaurants. Later that afternoon, a local business college invited Sarah to give a guest lecture on service industry ethics. When she hesitated, unsure about public speaking, Snoop offered some advice. "Just tell your story," he said. "Tell them about that night, about why you did what you did." Sometimes the simplest messages are the most powerful. The day concluded with a staff meeting where Snoop unveiled the official standard bearer uniforms, specially designed outfits that would be worn by certified trainers in all the new locations. Sarah was presented with the first one, her name elegantly embroidered above the heart. "This uniform represents more than just a position," Snoop explained to the staff. "It represents a commitment to treating everyone with dignity and respect." Sarah showed us that one person standing firm in their principles can change an entire industry. As Sarah hung up her new uniform in her locker that evening, she found a note from Snoop. "Thank you for teaching me something about my own restaurant," it read. "Sometimes it takes someone new to remind us what matters most." The day ended with Sarah giving a final tour to a group of investors. As she showed them around, explaining the philosophy behind the standard, she caught her reflection in one of the restaurant's mirrors. She saw not just a waitress, but someone who had found her calling in an unexpected way. "Success isn't about who you know," she told the investors, echoing the words that would become Platinum Grove's new motto. "It's about treating everyone like they matter, because they do." 3 months after the viral incident, Platinum Grove had become more than just a restaurant. It was a phenomenon. Sarah's approach to service had sparked what industry magazines were calling the respect revolution in hospitality. On this particular morning, Sarah stood in front of a mirror in her new office, adjusting her standard bearer blazer. The room, once a storage space, had been transformed into the headquarters for Platinum Grove's training program. The walls were adorned with framed articles about the restaurant's transformation, and a large monitor displayed live feeds from all 3 new locations. "Ready for the big day?" Snoop asked, appearing in her doorway. Today marked the official launch of the Standard Certification Program, with representatives from 50 different restaurants across the country arriving to learn the system. Sarah took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, checking her presentation notes one last time. The main dining room had been converted into a conference space for the day. Restaurant owners, managers, and industry leaders filled every seat. Among them sat Sarah's mother and sister, both beaming with pride. As Sarah took the stage, she remembered how nervous she'd been just 3 months ago, asking the famous rapper to pay upfront. Now, she was teaching others how that moment had led to a revolutionary approach to service. "The standard isn't just about rules," Sarah began, her voice clear and confident. "It's about creating an environment where every guest feels equally valued, where a teenager saving up for a special date receives the same service as a celebrity." During her presentation, Sarah shared real examples from Platinum Grove's journey. She talked about the night when a famous basketball player had arrived after midnight and happily paid upfront, telling his millions of social media followers about the experience. She described how regular customers had started requesting the standard bearer service, knowing they would be treated with the same respect as any VIP. Snoop joined her on stage for the Q&A session, adding his perspective as an owner. "What Sarah taught us," he explained, "is that true luxury isn't about special treatment. It's about consistent excellence for everyone." The afternoon session included practical demonstrations, with Sarah's original trainee group showing how they handled various situations. They role-played scenarios involving difficult customers, celebrities, and special requests, always maintaining the principle of equal respect. During the lunch break, a surprise video message played from various celebrities who had dined at Platinum Grove. Each one praised the restaurant's approach, with one famous actor noting, "It's the only place in La where I feel like a regular person." Sarah's sister, now working part-time at the restaurant while finishing college, had created a documentary about the transformation. The short film showed behind-the-scenes footage of the training program, interviews with staff and customers, and the positive impact on the local community. The most touching moment came when one of the restaurant owners in attendance shared his story. "I was about to close my restaurant," he said, his voice emotional. "Then I read about what happened here. I implemented some of these principles just from what I read online, and it saved my business. People want to be treated with respect. It's that simple." As the day wound down, Snoop gathered everyone for a special announcement. "Today, we're launching the Platinum Grove Foundation," he revealed. Its mission is to provide scholarships for service industry workers who want to advance their careers. And our first recipient is the person who inspired it all. Sarah was stunned as Snoop presented her with a scholarship to complete her business degree, along with mentorship from successful restaurant owners. But that's not all, Snoop continued. Once Sarah completes her degree, she'll have the opportunity to open her own Platinum Grove location, implementing everything she's taught us about service and respect. The room erupted in applause. Sarah's mother wiped tears from her eyes as she hugged her daughter. The simple act of following the rules had grown into something none of them could have imagined. Later that evening, as the staff cleaned up from the event, Sarah found a guest book filled with messages from the attendees. One note particularly caught her eye. "Thank you for reminding us that in an industry built on service, the greatest luxury we can offer is treating everyone with equal dignity." Sarah smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of a much bigger change in how the service industry approached customer care. 1 year to the day after Sarah had unknowingly asked Snoop Dogg to pay upfront, Platinum Grove was hosting a special anniversary celebration. The restaurant had been transformed into a glittering venue, with gold and platinum decorations adorning every corner. The original viral video played on screens throughout the restaurant, now viewed over 100 million times across various platforms. But what followed was even more impressive, a montage showing how that single moment had sparked a nationwide movement in restaurant service. Sarah, now completing her business degree while managing the training program, stood at the entrance greeting guests. She wore a custom-designed suit that would become the new uniform for all standard-bearer graduates. Over the past year, more than 500 service professionals had completed the program she developed. "Look how far you've come," her mother said, adjusting Sarah's collar. She had recently quit her second job because Sarah's success had allowed her to help support the family. Sarah's sister, inspired by her example, was now studying hospitality management in college. Snoop arrived with a surprise. The entire evening was being filmed for a documentary called The Standard: How One Moment Changed an Industry. Camera crews captured the reunion between Sarah and the original staff members who had witnessed that fateful night. "Remember how scared you looked when you realized who he was?" Maria teased, now managing one of the new Platinum Grove locations. "And now look at you. Everyone in the industry knows your name." The celebration included representatives from the 200 restaurants that had adopted the standard program. Each shared stories of how the equal treatment policy had transformed their businesses. One owner from Texas reported that his revenue had doubled after implementing the program. During dinner, Snoop called for everyone's attention. 1 year ago, a young waitress taught a famous rapper about respect. He began, smiling at Sarah. Today, we're not just celebrating that moment. We're celebrating what it grew into. He unveiled a wall of photographs showing standard-bearer graduates working across the country. Below each picture was a quote about how the program had changed their perspective on service. But the biggest surprise came when Snoop revealed the blueprints for the new Platinum Grove Academy of Service Excellence, a full-scale training facility where Sarah would serve as executive director. The academy would offer comprehensive programs in hospitality management, with scholarships for promising students from underprivileged backgrounds. And that's not all, Snoop continued. Sarah's first owned restaurant location will open next spring. We're calling it The Standard Bearer, a place where her vision of equal respect will set the foundation for a new generation of service professionals. Sarah fought back tears as she took the microphone. "A year ago, I was just trying to follow the rules," she said. "I never imagined that doing the right thing would lead to all this. But that's the power of respect. It multiplies when you share it." The evening concluded with the premiere of a special segment featuring customers who had dined at Platinum Grove over the past year. Celebrities spoke about feeling normal for the first time in years, while regular customers praised the consistent excellence of service. As the celebration wound down, Sarah found herself back at the table where it all began. Snoop joined her, both of them reflecting on the journey. "You know what made your story so powerful?" he asked. "It wasn't just about following rules. It was about showing that respect isn't something you earn with fame or money, it's something everyone deserves." Sarah nodded, thinking about all the lives that had been touched by that simple principle. The single mothers who had found better paying jobs through the program, the struggling restaurants that had turned their businesses around, and the countless customers who had experienced what true service equality felt like. As the last guests departed, Sarah's original trainee group gathered for a photo. They all wore their standard bearer uniforms proudly, each one now a trainer in their own right, spreading the message of equal respect throughout the industry. "So," Snoop asked with a grin, "should I pay up front tonight?" The room filled with laughter, but Sarah straightened her jacket professionally. "After midnight, sir, that's still the policy." And with that simple exchange, they celebrated not just a viral moment or a successful business model, but a fundamental change in how people treated each other. All because one waitress had the courage to treat everyone, even a famous owner, with the same standard of respect.